Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Impact star, Stampede Wrestling alumni, Dungeon alumni, Bad News Allen trainee, most importantly, Raj Singh. Raj, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Yo, I am great. Thank you for having me. And even though it's called Duke You Suck, you don't suck.
Thanks, man. Thanks. You know what? People just, I'm so used to hearing that all the time. People yell it at me so much. I was looking for a name and somebody goes, you got to go with Duke You Suck. And I was already thinking like the You Shut Your Mouth podcast. So that Duke You Suck was just flowed a little better.
Man, there's so many things that you could have come up with. There's so much that I can't even think of that when you're in the ring, you would just spit it off like so quick.
Oh, man.
You could have literally called it anything and people are going to follow no matter what. So it's cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm really, you're one of the guys that I've seen you come since I think you had 5 matches when I first seen you, I met you long before that, but when I first sort of, we became real serious acquaintances. It was, you were 5 matches in. But I remember.
I'm happy you said that because when I first started, it was about 5 matches in and then you came back and I was like, oh, sweet. Because I remember watching you and your brother.
Right.
I was always around the shows, but when I first really got to talk to you guys, it was when Anderson and Tatanka had their show at the Pavilion.
Okay. Yeah.
You guys were first up. And I remember watching, I was like, oh, this is so cool, man. And then I remember you and your brother took the time to talk to me because I'm Gama's kid and I'm there with Anderson at the same time.
Right.
And
it doesn't hurt that you're a nice guy, man. If you were a dick,
I appreciate that, man. And I just remember, I was so happy that when you came back to the Stampede in the 04, 05 there, I was just like, man, it's just coming full circle, and I get to be in the ring and being around the locker room with you guys while I'm actually wrestling.
Oh man, that thank you. It's actually flattering to hear you say that. Like it's one of the things as I get older, it's really nice to hear. Guys, and I look at, I said it just before we came on, I look at a guy like you as a guy that's made it. You know what I mean? You're on national television on Impact. And I watched you, again, before you started wrestling, when we were at the fire park, you know what I mean? When you and Jesse would come work out there. So I remember that time, and to see where you've got now on national television, with you and your dad. And for people who don't know, Gama Singh Jr. is it's no longer your Gama's son. It's now Gama's Raj Singh's dad now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. You're the first person to ever say that.
Yeah, and what's that? Sorry,
you're the first person to ever say that in wrestling. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's Gama's kid. That's Gama's kid." I was like, "Dude, I'm over 35 here, dog."
Yeah, man. See, and again, you're on national television. I appreciate that. You're there with Gama, but at the same time, it's like, no, man, you're still active. He's now Raj's dad. He's done wrestling. You're still active. That's Raj's dad.
Yeah.
So it's and nothing but respect to Gama. I mean, I remember somewhat hating being the heel all the time in Stampede Wrestling because we would have Gama and Gerry and Cuban on the road with us, and I would never get to work them. They would always work the baby faces. So I was that was the only thing, like if I was ever jealous of anything in wrestling, it was that I never got to work those guys because I was always the heel.
Never got to work them ever?
I worked Cuban one time in a spot show somewhere.
Yeah.
And he hit my head so hard off a table, I brought a tear to my eye. It was like, I mean, I put a little gravy on it because I was like, okay, really sell the shit out of this. It's the Cuban. And, he put a little gravy on it. I put a little gravy on it. And whammy off one of them old school plywood tables.
Yo, that's awesome just hearing that. That's like, that makes me jealous because I always wanted to work those guys.
Right. You know what? One of the biggest honors was 2 things that I really will never forget is, first I think I was going away somewhere and I was going to miss a show or 2. And Bruce wanted to put me out with an injury, and Gama fireballed me to put me out with the injury. You know what I mean? I'm sure it was a tag match with you and Jinder, right?
It was.
Yeah, I can remember being in the camel clutch and being so excited that Gama Singh was about to throw fire in my face. I just thought that was the coolest. And then what I also thought was really cool was dropping the belts to you and Jinder the first time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if I'm wrong, correct me. Carl Leduc and I dropped the belts to you and him in Stampede, right?
Yep. It was to us, yeah. And it was just, I mean, it's like I like to say that with respect to the business, I watched guys like you respect the guys like Anderson and my dad and that era that came down. So it was kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to say passing the torch because it wasn't really passing the torch, but just that we got to work together. And I'm like, man, I respect these guys because I saw the way you respected my dad guys.
Right.
So it's kind of like, man, and then if the time ever came that I had to drop the belt to you or anyone else, like, yo, gladly, no problem.
Well, and the thing is, you guys were always so respectful. You know what I mean? Like you were always so polite in locker rooms. And one of those, I can't say this enough, and maybe I don't, but so easy to do business with. Do you know what I mean? Like some guys, you get together working out matches with guys sometimes, and people maybe don't realize this. And it's most of 9.9 out of 10 times it doesn't happen, but you get that every once in a while where it's a bitch to put a match together with somebody.
Yeah.
And it was never like that with you guys. Do you know what I mean? Like it was never, ever like that.
And I think that also came down to, again, the respect factor. Like if I was ever you, your brother, I wish I got to wrestle Pistol Paul, like never got to, but we had JP in matches, Highlander, and it's like Chris Steele. I look at these guys, I'm like, well, whatever they say, I'm not going to really contest it because it's the respect factor. I remember at Fire Park, you come up to Anderson and say, hey, Anderson, Anderson and my dad were working. And you're like, hey, Anderson, I'm going to do this in my match, blah, 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 blah. And Anderson's like, man, we already got that. And Anderson was after you. Right. And then you turn around and say, all right, you're the vet, you got it. I remember you might not remember because it was just something you just did naturally out of respect. But I was a kid playing hockey, left my practice early, told the coach I was injured so I could watch my dad. Then I come and I'm in the locker room and I just wanted to be around you guys all the time.
Right.
And then I'm just sitting there and I saw that respect factor and I was like, that's how it's done. That's how it needs to be done.
Right.
I don't know for anybody up and coming in the wrestling world, if they don't have that in their mind to naturally respect veterans, that's the way to go about it. Well, and I saw you do it.
You know, and that's one of the things I think it's real fortunate where we came up. Do you know what I mean? Is we did have that real good generation of solid vets that were still around and willing to work with us green guys. Do you know what I mean? Because it was, all the respect we gave them was they showed us too. Do you know what I mean? Like we were these young guys that, I mean, we were stiff as shit. Like I didn't realize how stiff we were. Right. And so like, I can remember the first time working, like Ken Johnson was kind of the first vet that I really worked. Yeah. And I can remember snatching him in a first headlock, first thing in a match. And all I can hear is, whoa, 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 relax, relax, relax.
That is awesome. I figured that those guys might have been a little bit more stiff than like you guys, and then you guys more stiff than us, and then because
man, those guys were light. We were trained strong style to say the least. Like
some professionals, those guys, huh?
Yeah, I didn't realize, man. Bruce, like, and some of it, I think, because he knew what he wanted to sell. You know what I mean? But yeah, he trained us really, really, really snug. Like I can remember the first time I took a clothesline from, and watch your toes, I'm going to name drop now, but from the British Bulldog. We were just working out at the ring outside, and he happened to be there. And Bruce threw me in the ring with him, thank goodness. And he hit me with a clothesline, and I didn't even feel it. And so I hop out of the ring and I go over to Pollock and my brother. I'm like, hey man, I think we're doing it wrong. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, I didn't even feel that. Like, that's what I realized. Like, oh shit, we're beating the hell out of each other.
Again, that's something I wish, because like, you know what it's like to take a clothesline from Harry. It's nothing like you feel it. That's for sure. You feel it. Like I just wrestled. Well, I mean, before I had my surgery, I wrestled Harry in Vancouver, and I had to sit in the locker room for about 20 minutes after, because those forearms were so snug. Oh, boy. And dude, like my cousin was there. He was like, yo, man, should we go eat? I'm like, yo, bro, give me 20 minutes. I'm about to puke. Never mind eating.
Yeah. Harry's one of the few guys, like I can think of two guys that I kind of not snapped on in the ring, but he was giving, and he was like 18. Do you know what I mean? He was still just a kid, and I was a grown ass man, and he's throwing these chops. I can still feel him today. Do you know what I mean? He hit me with about 3 of them, and I just went off. I started like pimp slapping him. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't know what else to do. Like I was just like, what the hell? But it was just the way he just at that time, especially, he didn't know how strong he was.
Oh yeah, he's like I mean, somebody said it. Johnny Devine said it. I hung out with Johnny Devine a couple of years back, and we were just sitting there talking, talking about the boys, how's everyone doing? And then he looked at me and he's like, I don't think people understand how strong Harry really is. Like, if he wanted to, he could kill a human with his bare hands.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's just freakishly strong. I have a story about that, like about being snug and stuff. I gave you a German, and I used to do the Benoit holding on German.
Okay.
I gave you 1. I gave you 2, and I go for the 3rd one. I hear, I'm not taking one any more of those. And then you wrap your arm around and to flip me over. I don't think it was in the Legion.
I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all good, man. I mean, if I wasn't doing it properly, you had to stop me, right? It was like my first year in. I was like, shit.
Yeah, but I should just work with you. I don't, I wish I could remember this stuff, right? Like,
but those are good learning tools, man. Because like then when I'm in the ring, I like I said, I'm telling you now, and I think about it because I don't just do something, have it happen and forgettable. I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to piss off a vet. I don't want to screw up. I mean, anybody. I don't want to mess anybody up. I don't want to hurt anybody, beyond the means of the actual match. And I was just like, damn, that's something that really stuck with me.
Well, and sometimes, you're working with the guy too, and maybe I was putting myself in a bad position. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I wasn't, and I'm not, because I will never just blame the other guy, right? Like one time I dropped Pete Wilson on his head, and I mean, I don't tell this story lightly. I went to throw him with a German suplex actually, and he was probably thinking back suplex and threw his arm behind my head, and I still threw the throw. Do you know what I mean? And he landed right on his head, and he was so light anyways. So I kind of bear responsibility, because when he put his arm around, I should have just back body dropped him, or sorry, backdrop. You know what I mean? Side suplex or whatever. But yeah, so, and somebody fairly prominent in the industry at that time, like possibly a WWE scout, kind of commented, like said something to me about it. You know what I mean? Like, well, if you would have done that to one of my boys, and I just kind of laughed it off and said, well, I'm not scared of any of your boys, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's give and take. But yeah, Pete was one of those guys. He was so awesome to work with. But he flew around the ring.
And that kid could do anything, man. Like he was like Jack Evans. He was a blonde-haired Jack Evans. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that I think, like somewhat like myself, that just never really put himself out there, never took the risk. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's where I admire guys like you, right? Like you hung in there, you took your shot, and you don't always hit the moon on the first shot, right? And you hung in there, and now here you are, signed by a national company. And I can't tell you how much I respect that. Do you know what I mean? And I think the people, if there's anybody watching that's an independent wrestler, Raj Singh is a story that you need to follow. He's a second generation guy who grew up around the business. He respects the boys, he respects the business, and he's willing to do business. And I think for that reason alone, you deserve to be in a national company. And the fact that it took this long, to be honest, is somewhat bothersome to me.
Like, I appreciate that too, man. Thank you for the kind words. Like,
well, I don't blow sunshine up anyone's ass. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know
that's not my style. I'll always tell you the truth, right?
That's I need even more, because I know you. I'm like, damn, man, he's saying all this nice stuff. And
I think I'm finally comfortable. We're not fighting for spots on rosters anymore. I'll say it. You know what I mean? I always respected you guys, right? Like it was always one of those, I remember renting the vans and meeting all the boys at the mall. You know what I mean? It was because I loved those times hanging out with you guys, right? It kept me young, because I was already an old man when you guys were breaking in.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. You definitely didn't rap like you were an old man, bumps and like all this wild stuff. So
yeah, but so tell me how you ended up in Impact. Let's talk about that. Like, actually, you know what? I want to wind it back. Okay. Let's talk about when you started training with Bad News, because that's something that was one of those things like, man, I would have liked to train with News. I bet that was awesome.
It was awesome. And it's something, I'm like a live in the moment kind of guy, and still plan for the future. but I really miss those days of training with him, learning from him, and just having basic conversations and getting the knowledge from him.
Right.
But he was very, very hard nosed in the sense of like, he took pride in the work that Raj and I did, Jinder. That's why, I mean, for everyone that's listening that doesn't know me, Jordy and everyone else calls me Junior, because I'm the small Raj of the two, and I'm Gama's kid. I'm big Raj. So whenever Raj and I were at training and Dusty Adonis, we used to get like the kendo stick. I mean, I don't think that would fly in today's day and age for training.
Right.
But we used to legit get the kendo stick, and it's like, hey, Junior, class starts at 10. You're here at 9:45. You're late.
Oh.
So we're doing like the laps, or you got to leapfrog your guy, crawl under leapfrog.
Oh yeah, I love that shit.
Doing 40 of those before you do the squats and the push-ups, and because I'm late, and then we're doing the deck of cards, and all the faces are 20.
Right.
Sure enough, he's turning around and he's playing with the deck, and he's just 20,
just
20.
stacking it.
Yeah. And I mean, he was the training with him was very hardcore, and like I've never been to Japan. It's somewhere I've always wanted to go.
Right.
That's where Gerry and Bad News got their training. So they brought that back.
Right.
And it was very like, do this, get it done. Do this, get it done. And then we do it. Okay, now do it right. You don't get the kendo stick for you miss a drop kick. Oh, you're not hitting me in the chest or in the stomach. Okay, kendo sticks. Like, oh man, these guys.
Dang.
But it pushed us.
You learn quick, and it makes you tough, man.
Right? Yeah. And it's like a respecting. We know they're not doing it to be jerks or discipline. Like, they want the best for us. So
when you train hard, man, it makes, like, if you train harder than it really is, it takes that element off the table, right? Because when you first start working, you're so nervous already. But if you know you can take the beating, that eliminates it, because there's that extra shot of adrenaline when you're working. Like, yeah, you're practicing, you're training hard, but when you get in that ring and the adrenaline gets going, man, and you start laying it in, you need to know the other guy can take it, right?
100% accurate.
Yeah, like, it's like you say, the kendo stick wouldn't fly today, but I like repercussions. You know what I mean?
And it's funny though, because it's like we want to do it right, because the stick's coming, and then when you don't get the stick, you're like, I think I did it right.
When you don't get the stick.
Yeah, or
there's a difference between getting the stick and, I'm sure News wasn't like breaking the stick over your back.
Of course not. Of course not. I mean? It's like, he's like, it's like a slash in hockey.
Yeah. Nice. He's let you know he was there.
Absolutely. The worst when we're doing a back bridge and Gerry didn't like the arch, so he's like right on the stomach. Oh, those are the worst.
Well, you're all extended out.
Yeah, those ones are the worst, man.
So you were training so at your training would be your dad, Gerry, and Bad News.
Yep. And then sometimes we had Johnny Smith come in too.
Oh shit, bro.
So man, it was like, dude, I'm super spoiled when it comes to this. Like,
that isn't, I mean, I'm Joe Dungeon. I'm marking out so big right now, right? Like, look at the smile on his face.
Of course, yeah. Like,
holy.
I mean, yeah, I'm super blessed that, I mean, those are my dad's friends and stuff. So it was super fun. And then, but we also looked at it like when they came in, when they spoke, we listened. And I'm not saying guys don't do that with other coaches, but it was more like they were friends with my dad. So it's like even more of respect.
You've known those people since you were a little kid, right?
Yeah. So, and it's just, and they come in like, they're going out of their way to help us. And then, if we had training on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, sometimes they'd be like, okay, guys, we're going to go Friday as well. And Sunday, let's do matches. Like they went out of their way for extra time just because they cared so much about our personal development.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's so good.
So it's like, I mean, like I can't say that News was like a father figure in the sense of like he took care of me like that, but when it came to training, he didn't just treat us like his students. He also he would talk politics with us. He would tell us things, talk about girls and like how to treat girls and just like just things like that. And
it was almost more maybe life coach isn't the right word, because that makes, to me, it sounds a little soft, but I'm more of a mentoring than just training wrestlers.
Absolutely, man. And that's why I miss it like all the time, dude. I just sometimes you wish you could freeze time or rewind time just to go back to, that would be one of them for me.
Yeah.
Just
Well, and you've probably heard me talk about my old coach, Clive Llewellyn.
always.
You know what I mean? And that's one of those, man. We used to go to like 7-Eleven after wrestling practice on a Saturday afternoon. Clive would buy the boys Slurpees, and we'd have like Saturdays with Clive. You know what I mean? We'd wrestle for 2 hours and he'd work us, and wouldn't quite kendo stick us, but he'd work us pretty hard. And then, some of us guys that maybe didn't have the best homes, he would, spend a little extra time with us and kind of teach exactly that stuff, how to talk to girls, make sure you're opening the doors, make sure, how to treat a lady, how to avoid getting in fights all the time. Cause we were at that age, we were starting to get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like it's nice to hear that those guys have such an interest, because not every coach has that,
And I think it goes a long way. And I think that also you see it in their, I guess, let's say the proteges or their students. You can see it when they come. When you come from a hard-nosed coach, you actually get that type of student.
For sure.
That's my observation from it.
Yeah. No, and I agree 100%. Like even like I look, the one thing I'll give Lance in particular credit for is, for the longest time now, he's had kind of the closest, most reputable school. And the students he's turning out are such nice people. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they show all the right respect. Like even if it's a facade, I don't care, because at least he's framed it like, you need to be polite, you need to be respectful, you need to go to the show and help out. You know what I mean? And some of that, I don't think that happens at every training school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like now, to come to think of it, there might have been a handful of jerks when they came out, but they weren't even that bad, really. I do remember when I first came out of, it's funny, not many people will know this unless they really, really know me. And you would probably remember, because you verbally smacked me into place. When I first started, you used to call me Teddy Hart 2. You're going to spit out your water. You used to call me Teddy Hart 2 because you used to hate.
Sorry, man.
No, it's all good, man. You used to, like as wrestlers, we all have a bit of an ego.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
But mine was a little inflated because of like my hockey pedigree.
Oh, okay. Your hockey prowess.
Yeah. And I used to just be like, man, stupid young kid coming in there, 17 years old, thinking like,
I would call it aloof.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. And I just remember like there was some things I took for granted at that time,
right.
Not coming to help set up the ring always. I'd come once or twice instead of 4 times. And then I'd come late. And I remember we had a battle royal one night and there was chicken wings in the back. And I was like one of the last guys of the battle royal, the Royal Rumble style. And I'm eating the chicken wing as my music's playing. You're like, you're brave. And I'm like, watch this. I was just being a jerk. Like if somebody did that to me today, they'd be getting the but you gave me the verbal smackdown. It's like, yo, bro, it's like, calm down a little bit, be humble. You said it different way, different words. I won't say, but then it's like,
I can only imagine. And I apologize probably for how that came out,
No, but it was good though.
I always say the one thing I finally figured out as I got older, like it's okay to be honest with people, but I never had any tact. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to apologize to a lot of people, not because I didn't have a point, but because the way I thought I had to make the point.
Yo, but that's what made you though. It's like if you didn't do it that way, you wouldn't have been doing a Duke You Suck podcast. To be a Duke, you're the best guy in the world podcast.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, and again, I think it comes from a place of passion, right? Like I know we're all passionate about what we do. And I know, if I thought someone didn't give a shit, and you could see and you could legit see this if you watch the way I interacted with people in the locker rooms.
Yeah.
If I didn't think guys give a shit, I didn't really talk to them. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't because I didn't like them or didn't want to hang out with them, but if you don't give a shit, what are we here for? We're here to put on a good show, and there's a lot of times, we both know guys that would come out to the shows just to make just to make a quick PO and head out the door, as soon as they could get changed out of their gear. And that kind of stuff always kind of rubbed my ass. You know what I mean? It was, and it's, it is what it is, because I never maybe manifested it in the healthiest way sometimes, so I apologize for being such a dick all the time.
You're an honest dude. And that's what, maybe if you coddled me and, maybe didn't say so nice or treated me like you didn't care or think that I didn't care, then maybe I wouldn't have changed. And
well, I think too with you, I mean, I knew you and Jesse, you were what, 15 when I first met you, when you guys were, 2000 there.
You're roughly that. roughly.
Yeah, like maybe 15, 16 at the oldest, right? So you guys were guys that I really had an interest in, right? Especially, I kind of felt like I had to look out for you guys. If I kind of feel like if I did wrong by you guys, I would have answered to Jason and or Gamma. You know what I mean? So
probably yeah.
because and those are two guys that I definitely have no problem saying. I know you as well. I mean, obviously Gamma being your dad, but Jason Anderson is somebody that I hold in such high regard. I have nothing but respect for him and his family. I just love that guy.
Such a good dude, man. Such a good dude. I hate that we have a pandemic going on right now, because I used to see him weekly.
Right.
And now I haven't seen him in like a year because, schedules, but then also with this, it's tough to ask somebody to break a rule to go meet up somewhere,
Well, and that's the thing. Like I actually have a buddy that's, got engaged and wants to have an engagement party on the weekend. And I'm just like, I'm not necessarily Joe toe the line all the time, but there's also a limit to what I'm willing to do,
Where's right? You can tell them, hey, pay me fine. If we get fined, you can pay it, brother.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I'm a cheap bastard, so I don't want to pay that fine, right? Like I'm not somebody that's going to show up in court under protest so I can miss a day of work to go argue a ticket I deservedly got,
No doubt, man.
So now I'm going to ask you the polarizing question. Where are you at on the vaccine? How do you feel? And know that I'm not saying this so I can challenge you or debate you. I'm just legit asking how you feel.
Where am I at on it? I ask a lot of questions to a lot of doctors.
Yeah, as you should, right?
Friends of mine, and I get their opinions on it. And I've been convinced that it's a good idea to get it. So I got to give you a political answer. Where was I on it? I'm not a conspiracy guy,
right?
But I question how it came up so fast. And then I asked my questions like, untested stuff like that. I don't want to put things in people's minds either. I don't want to sway anybody's.
No, man. I have the same concern. Like I had to do, I had to do a little bit of research, right? You got to figure it out because I didn't know what an mRNA vaccine was before this happened, right? So then I look into that. Okay, they've been working with these types of vaccines since 2011. Now they just mess with the protein and come up with something quickly, right? But it lends itself to the conspiracy theory too, which always kind of makes me chuckle. Is that, well, how they, they released the thing and now suddenly they have a vaccine so fast. So not even if you think the vaccine's a nefarious thing, right away, it's like, well, I can't trust you because you had the vaccine so fast. You know what I mean? It doesn't look, the optics are terrible.
It's terrible for somebody that asks questions and has a curious mind like us. You and I on the road would have conversations and we would talk about this, we talk about this, we talk about that, and we'd have different angles.
Yeah.
We would ask questions. And it's not whether our minds change or not. We had questions. So we have questions about this. And even if I am going to go get it, I still have questions. That's the thing. I'll get questions after I get it.
Well, I got it. But I don't want to come across as super DJ jazzy jazzed about it either. Right. Like it's not something that I'm wearing on my sleeve. Like, oh, I got the vaccine. I'm doing my part for society. No, I have asthma and I want to travel. It's completely selfish. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't want to, but at the same time, it is what it is. I've repeated this on numerous shows recently that it's like, I've put enough dog shit into this body over the last 48 years. I'm not super concerned about what's in that vaccine, right? Like I got buddies that, they drink whiskey, they drink beer, they fucking eat at McDonald's. They weld for a living, so they're sucking God knows what up into their lungs. And they're like, well, I don't know what's in that vaccine. Part of me is like, you're telling me you know what's in a Viagra?
That's a good point. But again, I signed up for it. I was, and then schedule delay now. But
okay,
I'm more on the train of like, honestly, if I didn't need it, for travel, where I feel that they're going to restrict travel, I don't think I would get it just because of my age and like my health and stuff. Yeah. But everyone else is going to get it. And ultimately, I don't think it's some sort of population control, which is what I've been told by a bunch of people. I was like, I don't know about that stuff.
Well, here's my thing on that. It would be much easier to taint the food supply. Do you know what I mean? Like when you look at all the food suppliers, there's not that many huge food suppliers, right? So Tyson Chicken in the States, one of the largest food manufacturers on the planet. So all they need to do is get in, and they're huge lobbyists to the government. So don't tell me they couldn't get in with those guys and start tainting the food supply with whatever they want to put in this. It would be much easier to do that than get people to sign up for a vaccine. So I think that I appreciate people asking questions, because you should question your government. You should, question what you're being told. That's healthy, But what I don't think is healthy is like, even if you came to me and said, Jordy, I'm not going to get the vaccine. I'm never getting the vaccine. Fuck the vaccine. I'd be like, all right, brother. I'm tired of people hating each other for having a different opinion, right?
I'm with you on that. Like, if somebody tells me, hey, I'm going to go get the vaccine, sweet, more power to you. If somebody says, I don't want the vaccine, go ahead, don't get it then. Like, it's how you say, just because we disagree doesn't mean we hate each other. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I remember, and I'm, here's where I'm an old man and my memory's kind of giving me a problem. I can't remember if it was SARS or H1N1 virus that was going around, and there was a vaccine for that. And I was in the same, like I was in peak health. I was probably 29 or 30 years old, in that ballpark, as fit as I've ever been. I was not worried about getting this shit. And so what I did is somehow I figured out the math in my head between kind of people I'm in contact with, numbers of people with children that were going to get the vaccine because they had kids. I did this math, figured I might have a 1 in 10 chance of getting this thing. I'm not getting the vaccine. And I didn't do it. Right. So I don't blame people for wanting to hold out.
I never got that one either. The H1N1. I didn't get that one.
Yeah. Like, I don't get flu shots. Like, so because I've had this vaccine, I don't want people to think like I'm Joe, on the soapbox for vaccine. I kind of am, because I know somebody that has polio, and this lady's had over 50 surgeries to try and correct, kind of issues that she's dealing with today. And she's in her 70s. So on a certain degree, I'm definitely pro-vax, but then I'm also like, hey, maybe let's do the research. Let's test this thing for a few years before we start giving it to people.
Yeah, no, of course. Right. I mean, like, having a curious mind and asking questions, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say, and I'll give full credit to Joe Rogan on this one. If you want to actually look stuff up in a real, and not just get the sort of the mainstream media view of things, you can go Google a website and it'll come up as an app called DuckDuckGo. And DuckDuckGo, they have some, like, when you're, you kind of hear, like, you'll hear stuff on mainstream media and you want kind of a different perspective, but you can't find anything. Go to DuckDuckGo. And there's sometimes you'll hear something, somebody will say like, oh, I heard this conspiracy theory, and you can't find anything on Google. You can't find it on Firefox, which is dog shit. Firefox, fix your thing. You can't find it on there. You can often find these sort of, dark web type stories on DuckDuckGo. Like, it's a really cool search engine for that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna check that one out. I actually have heard of it, but yeah, it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, you don't really think about it, but then when someone reminds you, it's like, oh yeah, man, that. And then next time we talk, you're like, you try DuckDuckGo? Like, I don't think so, not yet. That's probably what's gonna happen.
Well, I found something I found something the other day, because I have a friend who's he's anti this vax, not anti-vax, but he's definitely anti this vax. And he said, you need to do your research, because, I'm a stupid guy and don't read anything. So he sent me a link to a story with this, and I won't bore you with all the details of it. But the bottom line is this: the guy was saying nobody in the world should get this vaccine. We need to stop it. It's a big problem. And when I looked into who the guy was, and when I Googled him, all I could find was this video. I couldn't find anything else on the kind of the guy. Go on to DuckDuckGo, and I quickly find some information on the guy that he hasn't actually submitted any clinical research since the mid 90s. And he sat on a lot of vaccine boards. So he looks really pro-vax on the surface. Do you know what I mean? But he's also working with a lab, if he's not a part owner of a lab, that's creating a competing vaccine to what's out there now for COVID-19. Do you know what I mean? So all of a sudden I see this man has, in my head, true or not, has a financial agenda to bashing the vaccines that are out there now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
and I could not find that on Google. It was on DuckDuckGo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's his gimmick then.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's got the agenda, man.
Everybody's got it. That we need the Aiden
gimmick. Yeah. God gimmick. We should actually start putting out a bunch of those t-shirts, and we'll start paying. I don't mind paying him royalties. I'll make the t-shirt and pay, fire him some money for the idea.
Yeah, we'll shoot him a message after. Hey, got gimmick.
Got gimmick. Dynamite. That's one guy, man. He is such a, like, Such a good guy and such a character. Like he's one of those you could only meet at Aiden Pringle in pro wrestling.
100 in the craziest world of the pro wrestling world. There's even a crazy guy in there, man. He's such a good dude, man.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with him?
Yeah, man. Of course we're friends on Facebook like everybody else. So he's like my meme mentor. Half the funny memes and shit you see on my Facebook are directly stolen from Aiden.
Like, because he sends me stuff on Instagram. Because I apologize for this too. Like if you send me a message on Facebook, I don't get it right. Like unless it's in my hand and it pops up.
Man, I'm 50. You're lucky I'm not trying to send you that shit on MySpace. What's that?
You have Instagram though.
Yeah, man. I got like 170 followers. I think I'm burning Instagram up right now.
Yeah, but no, yeah, he's a good dude. He sends me all that stuff on there. So yeah, no,
right.
But I like seeing your stuff on Facebook too. It's funny.
Well, and honestly, I get a lot of it from him. His page is hilarious on Facebook. But he's one guy, man. I had a couple matches with him, and both of them I like remember. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like a lot of matches I don't really remember, but I remember a couple times like him and I stiffed the shit out of each other one time. And it was like, you know, sometimes you stiff a guy and there's that little kind of a bitterness, like he doesn't know it was an accident. He might think but he was like almost laughing. You know, I went running off the apron, hit him with a flying forearm in the face, and all but fucking broke his nose. You know what I mean? Like just blood coming out everywhere. And then, you know, we're on the floor, turn it around. He takes me back in the ring and he's got me against the ropes. And I'm expecting the old Irish whip. And he goes, watch the spin kick. So I'm thinking I'm going to take a running spin kick. So my eyes are closed. I'm selling, and I take the straight up spin kick right in the face, man. Boom. But you know, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." And I was like, "Yeah, I thought I was getting thrown off the ropes." Like it was hilarious, right? Like, and we'll both never forget that match.
Yo, how was he to work? Was he fun to work?
Yes, man. Very easy. Very easy. He got it right because he was second generation, right? Because his dad was a worker too. Yeah. So yeah, he was one guy that came to the dungeon, and I think he's somebody that I think could have been so much better. And I hope he doesn't get pissed off at me saying this, but he didn't apply himself. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He was really, really fucking good. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he's one guy that I think if he would have kept coming to the dungeon, sent out a lot of tapes, like he had such a good look, such a good build, could flat out work, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck, that guy could work. So I just don't know if there was maybe I don't know what was missing. You know what I mean? Like I can't. So the only thing I can think is, you know, did he train enough, or like, because he could do everything, right? Like,
yeah, he was. I remember enjoying watching him wrestle. I never got the chance to. Right. He came back to WA. He was there for a handful of months, and then he got the belt. And I was like, okay, well, we're all around that same area. Maybe I'll get to work him. I drove up with him a couple times, and then next thing you know, he's gone to Vancouver acting.
Right.
I was like, wrestling, but I remember watching you guys. So that's what I was like, oh, sometimes there's some guys like what was it like to wrestle him? I remember I watching it was again you and your brother with what were they called? It was Rick Vane and JP, Heartbreakers or something.
Yeah. I remember old Rick Vane. I love that guy.
Rick Vane is one guy I never got to wrestle. I always wanted to wrestle him. I trained with him a few times, but training's not the same.
Right.
And then I remember you guys stiffing each other and then talking about it in the back. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I was like, you know, I'm like young, like, yo, what's happening? And then sure enough, the next show you throw him on the chair, give him one of those clothes on. You're like, that's the receipt.
Yeah, man. You know what? I always found the receipts come whether you mean to or not. You know what I mean? Like you stiff a guy and you're like, oh shit, that's coming back. And you go through the match and nothing happens. And then, you know, a couple months later, you're working the guy and out of nowhere, whammy, you get drilled with something you didn't see coming, you know?
100%, man, 100%. Or if you ever take like a Inzaguri from Marky Mark, you know he stars.
you know you've been Inzaguri'd.
Yeah, 100%. You get one from him. Oh, this guy. How many times will I get you back?
That's like, you know, as much as I love MRB, those kicks, when he gives you those kicks in the back, man alive. Like I literally feel like I'm going to bust a lung. Like it's so just holy shit. Right. But I also say that's why this business ain't for everybody. You know
absolutely. What I mean? I wanted to ask you, like when you wrestled like with your brother, Pollock, JP, Aiden. I always want to call him Sin.
Yeah.
Aiden. When you guys were working, did you guys call matches the way we did, or did you guys just do spot, and then filler with the art of wrestling, with the talent that you have, where you can feed off the crowd?
We would basically call the turnarounds.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we'd call, okay, we'd start out. I'm just trying to think, like Pollock and I almost didn't have to call anything. We worked each other so much. We just kind of knew what we wanted to do. We knew each other's kind of forte, but all we'd call is the very beginning of the match to get into the, kind of the babyface heat. Then we'd call the turnaround for the babyface to take over. One or two, definitely we call one sort of faint hope spot, and then we'd call the hot comeback and a finish. So, and that sounds like a lot, but in a 20-minute match, that's about 2 minutes worth of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And well, I just asked because I remember when we worked with you guys, whether it was, I don't think you and I ever had singles. We've definitely had a bucket load of tags.
Yeah, for sure.
But when we're in the matches, it's more like, okay, heat, blah, 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 but blah, 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 man, do whatever you want, and we'll feed the crowd.
Yeah.
But I wonder why. I wonder why it was like that. I think maybe it's because the training you guys got and the training we got as well, where it was very similar.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like Bruce, when Bruce trained me, and this is, I kind of used to get mad because I would hear people disrespect Bruce for whatever, for various reasons. And I always thought, like, if you thought I was worth half a shit, I give full credit for that to Bruce Hart. Do you know what I mean? And Ross too. But Bruce would book, we'd wrestle twice a night. That's what people like, how did you get so many matches? Because we wrestled twice a night. So we'd come out, wrestle single, and then Bruce would book himself as a special guest referee in the main event, which would most of the time be an 8 or 10 man elimination tag.
Right.
So that match would go for an hour when you're eliminating, 8 guys, 9 guys. And he would book Pollock and I into the final. And by the time it was down to Pollock and I, he was telling me what to do and when to do it in the ring. There was nothing called outside. Do you know what I mean? So once it got down, Bruce literally held me by the fucking hand and showed me how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't, people can say whatever they want about Bruce Hart, and I hold him in the absolute highest regard for everything he did for me in wrestling business. You know what I mean? Like he literally took me because I didn't get to work the Gamas and the Jerrys that much to learn from those guys. So he literally just would get me in the match and book himself as the ref and tell me what to do.
I'm not trying to make fun of him when I say this, but when you're having a conversation, very smart guy.
Right.
But when you have a conversation with him in the locker room, it's I want to say the words, and he says them like that so slowly, and he gets it out. You talk like that in the ring while the matches are going on.
No, it was.
How you call a spot, man? You got the crowd going. You got to work.
Well, he could only call 2, and then the match would be over.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No, man, it was funny because he would just kind of now fire to the crowd and holler at this kid and blah blah blah. Like he really just, it was literally like having a director in your ear the whole time as the ref.
Yeah, I always wondered because when you have the conversation with him, he speaks slow, but you won't hear what he's saying. Because, like I said, he's a very intelligent guy. Yeah, and you're talking to him.
Well, one thing he's very, and if I'm using this word wrong, someone call me out on it, but I would call him very pensive. He's very cautious about what comes out of his mouth. He really thinks about what he's saying before, he forms a thought before he fully, he starts talking and finishes forming a thought as he's talking, where I finish the thought and then blurt it out and then realize I said something stupid.
Yeah, but sometimes I see Bruce, and when he's telling me a story and he's at his finger, and his hands always go like this too.
Yeah,
as he's talking, and as he's doing that, I think there. I'm like, yo, this guy's got a thesaurus in his head, and he's just trying to pick which word he's going to use. Because sometimes he just throws the most random word out there. It's like, Bruce, that's why you're a teacher, my brother.
Yeah, nobody else would say that, and that's
exactly.
Like, that's the thing is the one thing I definitely, even dealing with the Hart family, taught me is within the Hart family, there's a number of characters. You know what I mean? Yep. And it set us up really well to meet the rest of the characters in the wrestling industry, because it's a wild business and people don't understand it. It's literally a traveling circus. Like it's the wildest thing.
I think doesn't Brett call it like the cartoon world in his book? It's like the cartoon world of professional wrestling, I believe.
Yeah, my real life in the cartoon world of professional wrestling.
Which is exactly it, man. There's so many different types of characters you meet, and all good dudes. Well, 90% of them are good dudes, and you're like, but this is what I signed up for, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, how many times have you been sitting in a locker room and just kind of watch the goings on? And thought, what the hell's the matter with these guys? Do you know what I mean? And then realize the next week, yeah, you're watching it, go, what the hell's wrong with these guys? And the next week you're doing the exact same shit you were going, what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, man. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff about wrestling, you know. I think about that too, you know, being at the show. Yes, being in the ring is great. Having your 15 minutes in the ring, great.
Yeah.
But the locker room is just, it's the best.
Yeah.
It just, even if you're not close with the boys, that one time you get to see them, whether it would be like every other week when we were at Stampede, or, you know, then we're doing the, you know, the week here, then we got Edmonton, then we got it's just so fun.
Yeah. Well,
something stupid's going to happen.
Yeah. Somebody's going to do or say something that you're going to talk about the next day, every show, you know what I mean? Like and you can't replace the locker room, you know, like it's, I miss wrestling, not because I miss getting the shit kicked out of me, but because I miss just hanging out with the boys. And you know, it was really cool kind of the last couple of years I was wrestling, because there's a lot more ladies like Kat Von Hees, who I got to get on this program. She was so cool to have in the locker room, right? So that's like, people say, do you miss wrestling? I do kind of miss wrestling. I miss working the crowd and stuff, but man, I miss the boys. Like, man, I miss the boys.
It's just, and like, there's always somebody new. So then you get to meet new people at the same time. Then you kind of, you know, then you figure out the background of somebody. It's like, oh, you were trained by such and such. I know such and such, blah, 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 blah. We become buddies, you know, your common denominator.
Right.
You got characters like Chocolate, you know, Chocolate becomes friends with everybody. He's living in a refugee camp in Kenya. And then he comes over here 5 years later. He's a huge star talking to, you know, in the locker room.
Yeah. That guy, what a story he is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for that story to come out. It's going to be a good one.
But, and again, though, one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we've met, you know, and you kind of touched on it a minute ago. You kind of 90% of the people you met are good people. And I mean, we don't, like you say, we don't always become best of friends with people with these passing kind of relationships in the locker rooms, but 90% of the guys you meet are really, really, really good guys. You know, there's a few, you know, there's a prick in every rose garden for sure. But you know, but at the same time, it's kind of, you know, I've been really fortunate. I mean, you know, think about this for a second. I'm probably one of the bigger pricks you've met in the business. And because I've known you for so long, I sort of get a pass on it. But if I'm the biggest prick you've kind of met in the business, you're actually doing pretty good.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but it's like I said, I go back to it's what makes you, because you don't do it in a malicious way. You know, it's you. It's like, okay, yeah, it's Jordy. But again, I used to see you at like barbecues at Anderson's house. You know,
right.
Like, I'm like, yo, that's Duke Durango. And I'm like nervous, but I'm like, why am I nervous? We're sitting in the same freaking kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
We're buddies. Like, I was a kid, but it's like, I know this guy. Like, he said, hey, Raj, hey, Jesse, what's up? So we're like, okay. It's like, why am I so nervous?
Yeah, we were, well, and we were always friends, right? Like, it's like, and again, somewhat at the beginning, you get a pass because you were Gama's kid. But now that Gama's your dad, you don't get that same pass anymore, right? You're standing on your own now.
Of course, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and let me ask you real quick, how's the family? How's everybody doing?
Everybody's good, man. Everyone's good. I mean, the pandemic is obviously, you know, getting in the way of people's real lives, but
for sure,
my dad's busy. He's, you know, we've got our real estate we're running, and I'm taking over the reins of that.
Okay,
not
good for you.
To travel, so I'm doing that for him. And then he's running a restaurant right now.
Okay, nice.
Which is very good for him because it keeps him busy.
Well, which restaurant? Let's pump that.
Chopped Leaf and Mahogany.
Oh yeah. I'm such a fucking idiot.
I
was thinking about it earlier when we were talking about Anderson. It's like, hey, we got to pump the Chopped Leaf.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because they're partnership together.
Yeah, you bet.
And you know, selfish me, I've only been there maybe 5 times in the 2 years. But
what do you think? I'm proud to tell you, I live less than 5 minutes away by car, and I've been there once.
Hey man, you got the invite. You can go anytime.
Yeah. Oh man, the water. I went there once. They had this water with like peppermint and lemons in it. It was delicious.
Like the chopped water. Like
Yeah, there you go. That's what it's called. Chopped water. That shit
yeah,
is.
give me that $2 water.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? If you'll pay $2 for a bottle of water at 7-Eleven, go to Chop Leaf, get the chopped water, go to the Chop Leaf in mahogany.
Yeah.
Best salad you'll ever have.
Take a 8x10 and get it signed.
Yeah.
He'll be
That's
sitting there
awesome.
with this. Yeah.
Okay, we got off track because I'm a jackass. Tell me, now I'm going to fast forward past all your time in Stampede and PWA somewhat. Tell me how did you end up at Impact? What happened there?
Well, as you know, you've seen me wrestle from literally day one, which was day 6 because it was my 6th match onwards. But it's like, you saw me progress up, go down, look like I was fully determined, and down and up and down. You've seen it all. And then Raj gets signed, goes to WWE. I have a couple tryouts. They don't go so well. They go okay.
Right.
I get feedback. I get good feedback based off of talent. And then I get the typical, we show us something else as well, and improve the body. Sure. So then that's when I come up with the Stamina Boppy character,
which was dynamite.
I
wasn't sure if I should wear this or might come get a piece. Or you want a piece?
Yeah. So I debut that at X Fest with you. We were in the locker room, and I'm like, hey, yo, I got this new character. And you're like, what? Because everybody sees me as like, trying to be some badass. And then I come out as a comedy salsa dancer from Puerto Rico, completely opposite of the world from India.
Yeah.
So I do that because I had a conversation with a couple of executives at the WWE, and they're like, show us something, and we've got Jinder. Okay.
Right. We already have Jinder.
No problem.
Yeah.
Because we actually went to a tryout together as a tag team, and they picked him on the spot. They picked him on the spot, rightfully so. He looked the part. He's huge. He's a good wrestler. So it makes sense, and then they tell me to, reform. So I come back with that character, and then I present this character to them, and I go to a tryout. Sure enough, you know what? It's a good character. Scrap that. Grow a beard. We want to see you in a turban.
Oh, you mother fathers.
I was like, all right, cool. So
son of a bitch.
Go to the tryout. Everything's working out. And then I just really focused, and I got great feedback, and I got a green light, and then hurry up, wait. And then Impact had called, and they had asked if I was signed anywhere, and I said no, which I wasn't. And I was waiting, but I hadn't signed anything.
Right.
So, okay. We're looking to obviously extend into the India market. Would you be interested in coming to Impact? And I was like, do I go right now? You know how it is, man. It's like I'm trying to make it for a handful of years, buckload of years. Nothing happened. And then all these phone calls come at once. So it's like, oh man, what do you do? Which girl do I take to the prom? Yeah. And then, my mom was always very big on, you never leave the bird in your hand for the bird that's flying.
Yeah,
never.
For sure, man.
So with all due respect, I did call, and I said, hey, this is what's on the table. It's immediate, no developmental, because of my age, because of my career. I don't have time for developmental.
Yeah, you don't have time to spend 3 years at NXT.
So with respect, I say that. Like, it's not like, oh, forget you guys. I was just like, I had to do what was best for me right now. For sure. And if somebody wants you and they want you today, it's like, that's respectful. So loyalty number one for me. And I was like, I can go right now, make my mark. And the funny thing is, as I was waiting and deciding, Impact called my dad. So my dad was already there.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah. And then my dad was like, what should I do? I'm like, well, go to Impact, because I don't know what I'm going to do yet. So my dad's in Impact. And then they're like, well, if you come, obviously you'll be teamed up with your dad and blah, 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 blah. I got the Spanish character. They're like, forget it. You're wearing a turban. I was like, all right,
cool. Sorry. Forget it. You're wearing a turban.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Hey, if you don't want to, hey, if you don't want to wear the turban kid, I'll wear it as a rock star in India.
Right.
Sign me up. So then, I'm so happy that I got to do it because I got to travel with my dad, and it's like, I mean, I'm close with my dad. I see my dad once a week when I'm in Calgary.
Right.
Minimum once a week. I hang out with my mom. We try to watch Judge Judy at 3:00 every day.
That is dynamite, man. That is so good.
Right. I try to see my parents as much as I can while I'm here.
Right.
Just being able to travel with them, and then we watch wrestling together.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
nice, man.
The new age wrestling. And my dad will come up to me and he's like, got this deep thought on him. Did you see Rich Swann? I'm like, yeah. He's like, he is crazy. That uses a lot of the verbiage that like my brothers and I use with each other when we're watching UFC. He's like,
all right.
oh, that match was fire. Oh, looking at this guy. It is very cool to see him watch wrestling. And then he comes with the stories.
Right.
When I see the Impact boys surround him and ask for the stories and the time, I was like, man, this is so cool. Like, I don't have that relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
Where it's like I sit there and get the, him and I argue a lot on wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's my dad when it comes to that.
Yeah, you'll push back where a lot of times they won't.
Yeah. But I remember LAX, dude. If you wanted to find LAX at an Impact taping, go look for my dad. They were
right, eh?
Oh, bro, they loved him. They're like, yo, God. And then Santana would even say like, yo, your dad's a G. I'm like, why? He's like, you walking in dress shirt, dress pants, no shoes, no socks, sandals, flip flop.
Not giving a fuck.
Santana's like, I'm gonna start doing that. I was like, oh, fuck. But yeah, no, it's very cool, man. Like getting to see that, and like my dad getting the second go around with wrestling when he thought, when I started wrestling, he's like, I'll come to the ring with you guys for a bit, just help you guys a little bit, which, we didn't. I'm not going to say we didn't need his help, but when we were in the ring with guys like you, TJ and Harry right away, he just basically was watching the match ringside.
Right.
So he's like, I don't really need to be doing that. And then he got to get back in there and he did enjoy it. It's just the travel was hard for him.
Oh, for sure, man. Because do you mind if I ask how old he is now?
66.
Okay. So he's, I pictured him kind of mid 60s by now. Just because I remember seeing him when I was a kid, right? I'm kind of doing the math like, oh, he's probably 20 years older than me, right? So yeah, he's 18 years older than me.
Yeah, 66. Yeah. It's crazy, man. Just seeing how he viewed wrestling, and like how he was watching. Like we're watching the same thing, and to me, I'm like, this is normal. Seeing them a match called A to Z, and he's like, and he's looking at me, and he's just, I don't like this. I don't like this.
You can tell. Well, and that's. I mean, I've kind of said some disrespectful things about the Young Bucks that I should probably apologize for, and not more in jest than anything, kind of more just like, fuck the Young Bucks. Yeah. But those guys are so fucking talented. Do you know what I mean? They can do so much. And I was just thinking, and kind of on the same lines as MRB. Do you know what I mean? Like that kid can do anything he wants in a wrestling ring. But I think if you just took about 20% off it, you could probably get more out of a crowd.
Yeah, it's like I'm more of I like the Kurt Angle style matches, the hard hitting. Yeah. But I also do see let's say the MRB style where you have like the flips and the kicks and all that stuff. And I love that equally. Yeah. But if you give me a choice, I want to see the amateur, the shoot style.
Right.
But I mean, I enjoy both. But it's
ultimately to me, I want to see a hybrid. Do you know what I mean? Like MRB, one thing I really like about him is a lot of these guys, not a lot of people, a lot of guys you see wrestle, they can do all the cool flips and shit. You know what I mean? And then they do a punch or a kick and it just looks like dog shit. Like, and it takes away from everything that they've just done. You've done all these cool flips and shit, and then you throw this shitty kick. But you watch a guy like MRB, he does all these cool flips and shit, and then lays that kick in. I think that's what separates him from a lot of guys too.
You know what? Like, I always respected his work, hands down. I mean, it's subjective, but my opinion, I put him top 5 in Canada because I've wrestled every province, minus Quebec, or even Quebec. The Maritimes I haven't done. Okay, everywhere I've gone, for sure, I see him up there. Right. And then so I'm coaching at a school now as well in Calgary.
What's that school? Let's pump that.
It's the Workforce Performance Center with your good friend Ali, the Beast from the Middle East.
Oh man, he's got some shit cooking.
Yeah, he's the venue's amazing.
Is that right? Eh?
It's amazing. Yeah. So Chris Knight, myself, and Kid Chocolate were there. Obviously, we can't be coaching because of this, right?
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic. We got Ali there. And sometimes we bring Ali in for the good story, and he tells us about how the crowd was hot for him at Fire Park. That's our thing,
though, man. He could get those people going crazy at the Fire Park. That guy could draw some fucking heat there.
Yeah, let's find out though when the comps aren't there, right? I know why you're laughing, brother. I know why you're laughing. I know the story. The red deer story. I tell him all the time. He's a good buddy of mine, so I love bugging him. Sometimes I'll call him just to bug him.
Just to bug him. The thing is here, people can say whatever the fuck they want about Ali, man. He's Ali is Ali is Ali. That guy doesn't change his colors for anything. And I fucking respect that. Like, he is who he is. Love him or hate him, he is who he is. And I have nothing but respect for that guy.
Yeah, he's exactly the same as when he was Fire Park days, which is what you love about him.
Yeah.
But yes, he's doing a good thing at the school. And we had MRB come down. I can't remember now if he called Mo or he called myself, but he just, hey, I'm going to come down this day, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, run the class. I'll watch it.
Nice.
Like, because I try to do, I'm not going to say I do the bad news training, but I do that style where it's like, do the leapfrog duck under, leapfrog duck under.
Yeah.
I'm doing that kind of stuff and pushing them. And if they do a spot and it sucks, I blow the whistle or ring the bell, do it again.
Oh,
do it again. No candlestick. I wish. Sometimes I wish.
No candlestick. Don't be such a pussy. Get a candlestick.
Of course. So then we had Chucky, MRB. I always call him Chucky.
I'm the worst for that, actually. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to change the nickname, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had him doing the class. The stuff that this guy knows and the simple stuff and the way he executes it, he never uses it in a ring because it's not flashy flash, but it is top
he knows
level.
And
it's top level. It's not just he knows it. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
And he's just doing it in a throwaway warm up. And I'm just like, oh, man, I'm like, this guy's a lot. I think he's a little too humble for his own good.
On some level, yeah, man. It's, he's taken a lot of shit from guys like me over his psychology. Do you know what I mean? And that's another thing I'll say, like, he would alter it if he was working with me, but for the most part, he would hear what I said and wouldn't tell me to fuck off to my face, but then he'd just go out there and keep doing what he was doing because he was getting over. Do you know what I mean? So, and again, just because I say it, I certainly don't always think like, hey, I've said this, so I'm right. Because I'm a guy standing there like, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. You go out there and do the opposite, the crowd pops. Well, what am I supposed to say? Right? Like, it's my thing to me. One of the things, like going back to the comment you said when I was talking to Anderson and we talked about the spot and I said, well, you're the vet, it's yours. And I walked away. One of the things that bothers me about psychology, and this is psychology in general, is we were always taught to wrestle somewhat to your spot on the card. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, 100%. The first match, if we wrestled in the first match, we weren't allowed to leave the ring.
Of course,
all your wrestling happened in the ring. I've heard as much as if you're in the first match, you can't go off the top rope. You know what I mean? We never had those handcuffs, but first match, we weren't allowed to leave the ring. So the problem with a lot of guys today is they want to have the best match on the card. And I totally appreciate that. And quite frankly, if you don't want to have the best match on the card, go find something else to do. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you have to be conscientious that when the main event gets in the ring, even if you're the best worker on the card, when the main event gets in the ring, you have to remember there has to be something left for them to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing from today's wrestling is everybody's getting their shine on because there's so many talented wrestlers out there but they don't remember like, hey man, if we hit 50 clotheslines or 50 super kicks early on and Shawn Michaels is coming out at the end of the night and his finish is a super kick, we kind of fucked him. You know what I mean?
I fully agree. And it's like you were a part of a team growing up. So I think that team mentality also pushes in. Like I played hockey my whole life.
Right.
So that team mentality. It's like, just, I don't have to score the goal,
Yeah.
but we need to win the game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like, did you ever get a chance to work for Michelle Starr in Vancouver?
No.
Awesome dude. Very, very awesome dude. I love working for him. Would anytime. He calls me. They have their meeting before the show. You know, like call time for the ring setup is such and such time. The boys are here at 6:30. Show starts at 7:30.
Right.
6:30, they have their meeting. If you miss the meeting, you're off the card. Sorry, you can't.
Okay.
You know, shouldn't be late anyways.
Right.
But or call him, let him know. Have the card, and he has the script, but it's not a script of like hey guys, first match, no leaving the ring.
Okay.
Nobody leaves. Actually, nobody was on the particular show I'm talking about. Nobody was allowed to leave the ring, and no DDTs allowed because Gangrel was the main event. And he didn't even know if Gangrel was doing the DDT. It's just that's his finish. So we don't know if he's doing it or not. Don't use it.
But don't do it.
Of course.
Certainly don't kill it.
Yeah, of course. And it's just respect for the business. And like, I mean, respect for, you know, like if you're watching the card, we're at a show, you know, if I'm on a show and there's Natty, TJ, or Harry on it, TWA, I promise you I'll never attempt a sharpshooter.
Yeah. In fact, I probably wouldn't even do a Boston Crab for fear from the wrong angle. It would look like a sharpshooter.
Of course. Yeah. And it just comes with the respect factor. And it's just like, also, again, don't kill what's coming after you. Let's just help each other out as well.
Yeah. And that's, I think, you know, when we talk psychology, match psychology has changed. Do you know what I mean? The same as like, you know, of course we're Canadians, so we're going to talk about hockey. The same as hockey isn't the same it was 25 or 30 years ago. Right. So of course things are going to evolve and change. But I think for me, the hardest part has just been sort of the lack of responsibility to, when you're having a fan suspend belief, don't insult them with some of the bullshit, you know? And I think where our generation, you know, your generation was probably the last one, and this maybe sounds bad. I don't want to sound like a bitter old man, but that didn't want to insult the fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's, the fans are already suspending belief to watch us put on a show. So to go out there and just do some outlandish, retarded, forgive me, do some outlandish, stupid shit. You know, it bothers me. You know what I mean? When I see a guy do 55, you know, 450 splashes in a match, it's like, come on, man.
Doing like the high fly, chair, table, ladder, and then it's a schoolboy to finish the match. Like, you know, well, the face palm emoji right away.
Well, and there's like, I was always told, you know, you see a match and you're like, well, how the hell is anyone supposed to follow that up? You know what I mean? And there's a point where it's like, well, if you can't follow that up, get better. Oh, okay. But if you set a table on fire and I'm supposed to follow that up, what do I got to do? You know what I mean? Like, I used to remember seeing those. Do you remember Public Enemy, that tag team in WCW? They come out with and bust 55 tables. In fact, one time I think they almost cut Rick Steiner's head off with a table. Doing a stack of tables. And to me, it's like, okay, so if those guys come out and bust everybody through tables and nobody loses to them, and then I got to lose to a schoolboy, does that not make us all look like assholes? You know what I mean? Like, that was always my attitude.
I mean, it's and like, I want to say it's common sense to think that way, but not everybody does. That's the problem.
Obviously, right?
You know, like, and like, that's the one thing my dad was very, very strict on me with was psychology and realism. He's like, if the fans think it's a work or know it's a work, doesn't matter. They need to believe in you and they need to believe what you do.
Right. Okay.
Cool. And then, you know, he would test me like, oh, this, that. Why is he doing a slingshot in the middle of the ring? He should be doing a slingshot towards the turnbuckle.
Right.
Make it make sense when you're doing it.
Yeah,
that was just
for sure.
Just, and you know, it's just, and we're watching a show. He's like, my dad would say the same thing. How you're touching on. It's like, nah, that match was probably a little bit too much for the second match of the night.
Right.
Right. So but it's more, again, like the teamwork. You know, if I see such and such is in the main event, like if I'm in the main event, you know, I ain't doing no moonsault, no 450.
Feel free, boys.
Yeah, and then don't do too much, because then my stuff is just gonna look like a boring guy, you know, like boring. I say, yo, relax, I just tied up.
Yeah, well, yeah, and and that's, I don't know if problem's the right word, but that's the thing with, there's so many talented high flyers out there right now that, I had this, and tell me what you think. We had a discussion the other night with Wavo Red Thunder, Johnny Devine, and myself.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion. We were talking about Ric Flair.
Awesome. I want to hear that. I want to hear that.
Oh, it's on. I think Wavo recorded it. Hopefully, it's on Wavo Stars web or Facebook.
Okay.
Sorry. And we had a conversation about like Ric Flair and how simple his stuff is. Comes out, takes the turnbuckle, stumble, face bump. Rolls up over the turnbuckle onto the apron, gets clotheslined off the apron. And would the crowd react to it today? And then we all say, of course it gets. My attitude was, of course it gets over with the crowd, because we want to see Ric Flair play Ric Flair's greatest hits. It's like going to a Loverboy concert. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to see Loverboy play those 5 songs every time they come. And so that's the thing. And my question then was, okay, so let's fast forward to today, and you have an AEW card. Would Ric Flair's simplicity still get over today?
If he wasn't Ric Flair, no.
Yeah, and that's the Ric Flair's the intangible factor there, right? But
it's part of his shtick, his gimmick. It's just, I don't know. Like, I mean, there's some people have to start somewhere too, because the first time the people's elbow was done, people were like, this is dumb. Then the second time is like, oh, he did that. Then the third time is like, oh, this is becoming cool, and he was just The Rock before. He wasn't like some super mega star.
Yeah.
And then, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like, we also have to give people chances to try to develop their specialties.
For sure.
Their
Yeah. Well, and you got it. Like I always say, the best character, everybody wants to know what their gimmick is. And somebody else's words, not mine, but I would say the best gimmick is you turned up to 11. If you can do that, right? So yeah, now I kind of lost my train of thought. Son of a bee. So anyways,
that was you were back. Yeah, Ric Flair at AEW.
Oh yeah, I mean, so to me, sometimes the moveset doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like if you look at Hulk Hogan as a prime example, the moveset didn't matter. You just believed in Hulk Hogan, because, like, going to your point, Hulk Hogan sold Hulk Hogan so well that you just believed in Hulk Hogan. So again, would Hulk Hogan's wrestling get over today? It probably would, because you simply believe in Hulk Hogan. So using that logic, Ric Flair's bumps would get over, especially on a card of, flippy flip show. It would be that different thing on the card that would probably actually really get over, now that we're talking about it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough because we only want to cater to the people that like wrestling. When I have friends that come to watch a show, they're like, oh, that's stupid. Like, it's so fake. Well, you don't want to watch the show. Just don't waste your time.
Yeah.
But people that are there, we want them entertained. But then we also want to make it, believable and entertaining at the same time, and have them believe what's going on. Like Spider-Man's at home falling off a building. Everyone's like, oh my God, they're biting their nails. What's the difference? There is no difference. The guy's eating a steak right now while you're sitting there crying off the building.
Yeah. Well, and that's always the thing that gets me about pro. You hear the detractors like, oh, wrestling's so fake. Like, really? Because just last week you watched The Terminator and told me how awesome it was.
100%.
I was like, get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah.
Like, the thing about wrestling fans is they know Santa Claus isn't real, but they don't want to believe it. And I think most people are like that with pro wrestling. I mean, the cat's been out of the bag for a long time now, but I still get people like well, that wrestling's fake, right? They finish it with a question mark. Like they think they're making a statement, but there's a question mark at the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
And I'll just give them, it's fixed. It ain't fake. Like, I've had too many concussions and injuries to tell me it's fake. So go fuck yourself.
That, I like how you say that, because I use the same thing. I'm like, it's fixed, but it's real. The money's real. Injuries are real.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Money's real. I've never used that analogy, but it's true, right? Like, it's, I actually had some buddies when I went from amateur wrestling into pro wrestling. We had some kind of purists that really gave myself, Pollock, and my brother the shit, right? Like, oh, what are you guys doing pro wrestling? And that was my response to one of them was, well, how much money did you ever make amateur wrestling?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I can only fucking dine on loyalty and respect for so long.
Yeah. That's one of the things I was talking about with my dad, was amateur wrestling is guys ain't making money. You got Jordan Burroughs making money. And
Yeah.
that's
Unless
it.
you're a gold medalist, you're screwed. Right. Like it's, and even now, Jordan Burroughs, I mean, his career is over now.
Yeah.
Right. He's just retired. So what now? You know what I mean? Like it's
those expensive ass ASICs. I was
Yeah.
gonna buy them. I'm like, I'm paying $280 for those training
yeah.
shoes.
That shoe better wrestle the match for me. Like,
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah,
like amateur wrestling, I think, is the shittiest sport, and I'll say that the shittiest sport at retaining its athletes. Do you know what I mean? Like amateur wrestling for most athletes, when you're done amateur wrestling, unless you go on to college or get a scholarship somewhere, ends when you're 18 years old. When you're finished high school, a lot of guys never wrestle again.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? So when you look at other sports like hockey and football, volleyball, these sports have like lifelong retention. Where amateur wrestling, most of the guys, man, unless they go into university and keep wrestling, going to the national team, most people are done, like finished wrestling by the time they're 30. And unless they got a job coaching somewhere, they're away from wrestling. They're done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, now there's a little bit of an avenue where guys can go into MMA. Yeah. But it's just so small. And it's so unfortunate because amateur wrestling is like, it's the best. It's the best to do, but it sucks for your life and your career.
Yeah. If you want to make money, don't do it, But I also say too, like, I think Kurt Angle actually one time said the complete opposite of this. And I will argue with Kurt Angle on this all day. That I think if to prepare for pro wrestling, amateur wrestling or jiu-jitsu are probably the two most important sports. So you can defend yourself in a ring. Like people don't understand if something goes south, you need to be able to defend yourself. But most importantly, so you understand what a struggle is in a fight. You know what I mean? Like boxing can teach you that, but I don't want to see you get punched in the face that much if you can avoid it. But yeah, I think that a lot of guys, one of the harder concepts is learning to make it look like a struggle. You know what I mean? If you've never been in a real fight, and I don't mean standing in a school field punching each other in the face, I'm talking like a controlled environment where men fight. It's hard to make that up. You have to kind of understand that struggle.
That's a good point too, because I guess I never thought about it like that. Because I was amateur wrestling, boxing, hockey my whole life, and street fights. So I knew
you've done it all.
Yeah, so I knew the struggle, and it's like there are some guys that I always laugh about this, where there would be some of the boys at the show, and you'd look at me like, "Yo, Junior, what's up?" We're sipping on the Coke that we'd get for free at Ogden Legion.
Yeah,
when there was more chairs than fans. And we're like sitting there, and you're like, "Yo, you look at such and such worker. Hey, think he could hold his own in a street fight?" Like, not a chance. His neck's too skinny. I'm like, oh my goodness, but it was true. Like like such and such probably wasn't even in a real fight ever.
And that's not a bad thing, right? I come across a little bit maybe the wrong way. Like, well, you have to be a tough guy. If you're a pro wrestler, first and foremost, you're probably a tough guy or tough gal anyways. Because I will say pro wrestling is one of the things anyone can do if you're willing, right? A lot of people think I could do that. Yeah, you could, but are you willing to? That's a different conversation.
I know. It's like I know I hit pretty hard in the ring, and when guys are taking shot for shot with me, they got to grit their teeth and close their eyes. So it's like I said, with Harry, guys like BBD, I take the forearm, I grit my teeth. Here it comes. And so we gotta be right on the line of psycho right there.
Well, and that's I always say, like, people like, oh, this wrestler's weird. Of course he's weird. We hit each other in the head with steel chairs for $100. Like, we're fucking insane. Man. I mean, I'm not saying all wrestlers are dumb, but we're all a little bit off. We're all just a little half a bubble off in the level,
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we keep going back to it, but it's the best. It's so fun.
You can't there's nothing else. And for people that have never been in the ring and say they understand is insane to me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I understand what I understand the rush you get from that. No, you don't. any more than I understand the rush of walking out at WrestleMania in front of 70,000 people. I could never understand that, right? I could tell you, oh, I that would be great, but say I get it, no way. You know what I mean? Any more than the average guy walking down the street would understand what we get from pro wrestling.
Of course. I wanted to ask you, I just reminded me, you did that play.
Yes.
Was it the same being on the stage there as it was in the ring?
Yes and no. I mean, it was performing, you know what I mean? But it was horrifying for me, to be honest with you.
Why?
Because, and this is, so the first, I was actually in 2 plays, and the both plays I was in, the guy wrote them and cast me specifically in the plays. And you might know him. Do you remember a guy named Alan who used to come to the shows with a lady named, oh, Jordan, you asshole, Dabby? And they had the daughter was autistic, and her name was Elena, and she would be in the front row all the time, high-fiving the boys.
Yes.
And he wrote the plays. Her dad wrote those plays and took me golfing and convinced me to be in a play. And he said, you're an actor. You're a natural actor. Well, of course we are. But I didn't realize until I was trying to memorize a script that when I'm wrestling, it's all improv. It's just me, just using my own words. So I had to memorize all the lines. And the scariest thing, I mean, okay, you memorize the line and you maybe you screw one up here and there. But honestly, the worst part was, on TV, if someone misses a line, somebody off to the side of the stage whispers the line to them. That doesn't actually happen. So I was in a situation once in a rehearsal where a guy that was much more talented than I forgot his lines, and the whole first act I've never seen anything like it in the whole 2 plays I did. It was a disaster, Raj. Like I couldn't believe it. Yeah, absolutely. I freaked out. Like I bet the people. Well, yeah, because he didn't do his lines, and I wasn't good enough to pick it up.
Yeah.
And so I was a first-time actor. And I was the lead in the play, which I still think was a mistake, but, so the first 40 minutes I was on the stage of the first act. And so the first 20 minutes are me and this poor bastard. He's trying to carry me and he forgets his lines. And I don't know enough to help him. And later on, another character comes on. I think, okay, when she comes on, she'll hit her lines. I know what comes next. We're back on. She comes out, completely fucks the football. Like I have no idea what she was even thinking when she walked on, and nobody would throw us a line. Like nobody would help us. We just were out there looking like idiots. And so at the end of the first act, I let the director kind of say his piece. And I told the people, I was like, and this is going to sound really terrible from a guy that was only in literally my first play. I go, listen, I've been in like 1,600 professional matches, and I've never been as embarrassed as I am right now. If this happens in front of a live audience, I will rip this fucking building brick by brick to its foundation. You will never see anything like it. And so, like, I went off about like, your egos are so fucking big. When we lose a line, you can't throw us a line. I was like, you'd rather have us look like assholes and blow the whole first act than throw us a line? I was like, that's fucking bullshit. You guys need to check your egos in the theater. It was not pretty.
Damn. So, like, I mean, did you get the same sort of rush when you were on there? No,
because I was too scared.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it was, I could see where a guy would get the rest, and I see where you're going because you're starting to think about it, right?
Because I did a movie last a year and a half ago, and it came out last summer.
Okay. What's the movie?
It's called Vagrant.
Okay.
Was in the Calgary Film Festival, and I had a actual 6-7 minute scene where I have like lines and everything.
Right.
And I remember filming it at the time, and I was just like, sitting there like a jabroni, waiting, eating the catering, then going there, doing our spots, and we do the spot, and I treated it like it was wrestling. Yeah, right. I was playing the heel lawyer, so easy peasy.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, okay, whatever, it's out of here. Not nerve-wracking at all. We go to the theater for the show, bro. I was sweating like it was my first match. My parents came with me, my brothers came with me, and I was like, and I knew when the scene was coming because it was like near the end of the show. And I was just like, oh man. As soon as the show came, as soon as we're watching it, it felt like the first match to me, if that makes sense. So I was just like, I wonder if you had that feeling in the play, because it's also live audience.
Here, that's the thing, is because it's live audience. If you're filming a movie, and I've never filmed a movie, so I'm kind of guessing here, but when you're filming a movie, if you botch the line, cut, start over.
Easy peasy. Yeah,
That
exactly.
doesn't happen in live theater. You know what I mean? Like when you botch the line, you're fucked. Like somebody's got to figure out what to do next. And so somebody gave me this girl, Jen McLean, who's actually been on the podcast. She just gave me some real good advice. She said, learn the lines, but don't memorize the lines. Just know what you're supposed to say. You know what I mean? And she would actually fuck with me a little bit because there was a scene where I'm talking to a door and she's actually on the other side of the door and I could see through the crack of the door. And as I was kind of running my lines, if I turned towards the door, I'd see her kind of doing something stupid behind the door because she knew she was trying to keep me loose, right? So it's
She should have been one of the boys, man, playing the ribs.
Exactly. Oh, totally. Like untying my boots in the middle of a match, right? But you know what? I don't want to piss on it because it was a really, really, really amazing experience. Like it was really fun. The acting community was, and this is something I brought up with them. The acting community was, I found, very accepting of, a wrestler that's literally never taken. I think I took drama in, ninth grade or something, but never taken an acting class. My whole resume is here. I've done this wrestling for 20 years. And I know none of you have seen it, but that's what I did. Right. And so they were really accepting and I said this to them. I don't know if a wrestling locker room would be as accepting as you guys are to me. Right. If say just some actor coming in and moving into a main event spot, it probably wouldn't go over that well.
Yeah. It's tough to say. It'd probably depend on who the actor was.
Yeah. Tom Cruise, no problem.
Yeah. Come on, Dwayne, come have a seat here.
Yeah. We got a job for you, kid.
Yeah, you can sit in the back locker room where the showers are. That's where Duke and Chris Steele will be.
Holding court.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, no, that's cool. I always wondered, I never got a chance to see it. I do remember when you guys were plugging it at the show. Right. You said lines and stuff, but it's just something because I would like to venture into acting, not to be like a super mega star, but just try my hand at it, and it's fun so far. But I always think that let's see if the next if I get into another one, let's see if I get the same sort of feel and rush.
Oh, for sure. Well, who's actually doing a lot right now is Chris Steele.
Oh, no way. Awesome.
Yeah, man. He's been on he recently, and I hope I'm not saying anything out of school here, but he actually recently filmed a movie and I don't know if he was just an extra, but he was in a scene with Kate Beckinsale recently.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he was also on a show called Winona Earp. I think it's actually a series.
Yeah. I actually, I had an audition for that too, actually.
Okay. So yeah, he was on that show. So he's actually doing a little bit. I think he was also in a truck commercial.
That is awesome.
He's doing some. Yeah, I'm surprised, to tell you the truth, because he's not somebody I thought would put himself out there like that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get him to come on the podcast. He's like, oh, no one wants to hear what I have to say. I'm like, get out of here.
He'll take his shirt off.
Yeah.
He looks phenomenal.
He's all skinny now. He's only like 207 shredded pounds.
I saw a couple pictures. He looks really good.
Oh, he looks ridiculous. And he's still a lot of guys diet down to that and then, sort of go back up. But he, I seen him the other week and he still looks fantastic.
That's good. Make sure you tell him I say hi next time you see him. I'm sure I could shoot him a Facebook message, but it's not the same.
Well, and that's, when things get back, to be honest with you, since I quit wrestling in November 2018, I haven't wanted to go to a show, and not because I'm mad at the business or anything, but I knew if I went physically, I could still kind of half-ass do it. I could still work those undercard matches, So I knew if I went back, I'd get the fever and want to wrestle again. Right. And now I know it's been almost, we're coming up to 3 years this November. I know I'm done. I know, so I can finally okay, let's go down, me and you will go sit in the crowd, have some beers, and just watch the show.
Yeah, I would love that, man. That'd be very fun. The last live show I went to, actually, I went to watch RCW a few times, but before that, I went to RCW while I was injured. And then the last one before that was your retirement match. I came with Ali the Beast. Okay.
Yeah. Man, that seems like a lifetime ago, actually.
Like you said, November 2018. Time flies, man.
Right? Yeah, that's wild. And that's, now that I think about it, that's the last time actually I seen Jinder. I think it was March, just before he got re-signed.
Yep.
Last time I seen Jinder. I've talked to him a couple times since, but yeah, I haven't seen him. That's wild. Holy shit, time flies, man.
And it's funny, man, because we we don't, it's some guys, we don't talk all the time, but when we do talk, you wouldn't know we don't talk all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes down to just being, and it sounds cliche, but just being brothers. You know what I mean? people we overuse the term brother in wrestling, but unless you're a wrestler, you just don't get it.
100%.
Like I say brother so much that when I hit B into my phone, it's the first brother with an A at the end is the first thing that comes up.
The first auto word select that pops up is brother. Right?
Did you ever meet Tiger Khan?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I know you guys were really close, but I didn't get to meet him on that level.
Right.
But I got to see him. Met him a few times and watched him. Yeah, he was a good dude.
Oh, he was a beauty, but he had the best brother. What's that? Sorry.
What's his real name again?
Marlon Kalkai.
Marlon. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but he had the best. Like if he hadn't seen you for a week or something, you'd walk in the locker room and be like, "Hey, brother." He'd be like, "Brother." Like he would be so excited to see you. And to me, he always had the best brother because it was never just like brother. It'd be like brother, and that's how you knew he was serious or he was glad to see you when he threw the 2-syllable like the big brother.
Yeah, you guys were really tight.
Yeah, man. Him and Steve Hooper too were really close.
Hooper, that's a name I that I haven't heard in a while. He's an awesome dude too, man.
Yeah, he's another guy I've kind of lost contact with. He moved to Panama, and he had a cool job at CP Rail, and then took a really cool job at a railway in Panama. And so I've talked to him maybe 3 or 4 times in the last like 10 years. You know what I mean? Last I knew, he was doing really well though.
No, that's awesome, man. I mean, these names that you used to see every week, and then it's like now you never see them, but you remember them.
Oh man, and that's the thing is, when I get old and can't remember my family, I bet I'll still remember you guys. Yeah. My poor wife will walk in the room like, "Who the hell are you? Where's Raj?"
Yeah, with all the turnbuckles and chair shots we take, we just only retain the wrestling.
Yeah, that's it. And that's, I can remember my poor wife saying, like, I hate hanging out with you wrestlers because you talk about like 3 things, like weightlifting, wrestling, and sex. Like, it's disgusting.
And it's so funny, man, because like, I mean, any conversation we have just it flies. And then when we would travel on the road, I did the Edmonton drive with you. That 6 hours just burned by. And when I say burn, get burned, my brother. You know what story sticks out from my mind the most? I don't know if you were in the van, but it's a Harry and TJ. Yeah, we're driving the van. I think TJ was sitting in the front and sitting beside me, and I'm driving, and he's talking to me. He goes, "Oh, you know who hates mushroom soup?" Like just kind of randomly, like, "Who's that?" He goes, "Harry." And I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, like Harry hates mushroom soup more than anything." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Oh yeah, ask him." So I holler back at the van. I'm like, "Hey, Harry, what do you think of mushroom soup?" "Jordy, I would rather eat a dick than a bowl of mushroom soup." I was like, okay, don't give Harry mushroom soup. I wasn't there for that, but yeah, I missed those days. We started because that was for PWA, I think, right?
Yeah.
But we started, shit, man. I can't remember exactly when it was, but those van rides to PWA just stopped because we used to ask Kurt, and Kurt's like, "No, get your own. I'll pay for the PO instead of getting the van." I don't know why, because the van would be so fun.
Oh, the van was a riot. The only problem with the van was honestly eating afterwards, because we'd always, I'm an old man. I want to get home to my wife, right? Everyone else like, "Oh, let's go to BP's." Yeah, you can go to hell. I got to get home and get to bed. So finding a drive-through that would give you 8 different orders or whatever was a nightmare. And of course, we all got paid in 20. So making change was that was the worst part. But otherwise, man, I won't trade those times riding with the boys for anything. Right? Like,
oh no, it was the best. I went with you a handful of times. Obviously, I went with Raj, a bucket load. Dusty, Dandy. The best one time we took Dandy and we purposely just went around Edmonton to give him the wrong address just to piss him off because he had to be had something to do in the morning, but just on purpose, we just purposely gave him the wrong address, and we told TJ, and TJ's like, "Yo, TJ, you go this way, and then we're gonna just mess with Dan a little bit."
Oh, that's hilarious. Did you tell him ever, or is this the first time it's come out?
When he hears this, then he'll probably figure it out now that we did it on purpose.
Oh, I love that.
That's the ribs, man. It's like the best is when you never tell the ribs and then they figure it out that it was a rib. Oh man, those are the best ones.
You know what the meanest rib means?
Like what is that?
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, like, some audience appropriate ribs, like fun ribs that you could tell. Like, what was a good one you had?
Probably the worst one we did it to. You remember Ruffy Silverstein? Do you remember
Yeah,
that kid? So he was one of the
of course, yeah.
nicest guys. And here's where I'll freely admit, maybe a bit of bullying going on here. So what we would do, we would fuck with Ruffy because he was a nice guy and we knew he wouldn't get mad. He knew, like, we knew he would just take it as a rib and wouldn't try and fight us for it. You know what I mean? So me and Diener would kind of fuck with Ruffy a bit. So more than once, I would start the match, and I used to travel. If people don't know what Tiger Balm is, Google it. But I used to travel with Tiger Balm, and it was like the extra hot Tiger Balm. It was like red. It wasn't that white stuff. It was this red Tiger Balm, and I had like a drum of this shit. And so Dean would take, like, he would load up 2 fingers like you were eating peanut butter with Tiger Balm and take it out to the ring with him. And I would start with Ruffy, grab him by the throat, push him back in the corner, and naturally he'd sail backwards and open his mouth. And Dean would stick his fingers in his mouth and scrape the Tiger Balm off on his teeth.
Yo, I
apparently his mouth would dry out really bad after.
I remember this because I remember when you told me, it's like boom, choke. And the guy, I remember when you told me that one. That's a good one. That's a little bit mean.
It is, because that's pretty mean. Like, I'm not gonna deny that. But we knew he couldn't get us back. So that's why I say it was probably a little bullyish. Ruffy couldn't fight us. You know what I mean? We would have kicked his ass.
What would he say to you guys?
What's that?
What would he say to you guys? Anything?
Oh, he would just like, you fucking assholes. Like, I would kind of mess with Ruffy all the time because he was such a good guy. And it wasn't that I was bullying him to some degree. I just knew he would react properly. One time we were in a tag match with Bruce. I think it was the first time Ruffy had ever been in a ring with Bruce, and he was a little nervous. So I held him in a corner and pretended I was working his ankle and untied his boots.
Yeah.
And then let him go, and he goes back to the ring, and I look over at Bruce. I'm like, look at this kid, man. He can't even keep his boots tied up. And Ruffy didn't think that was real funny.
Yeah, those ones, the ribs are like, like they keep us amused during the show. Sometimes we get bored when we're there, right? You go watch 6 or 7 wrestling matches. Yeah, they're all good and entertaining, but as the boys that know the business, we want to see some ribs.
Oh, I was bad for untying the ref's shoes. Like, when the ref would come down to count, I'd reach over and untie his shoe. Or, I'm not proud of this, but it is kind of funny. But like, Fledge would be checking me, and I would always like kick him in the nuts, or like I was bad for kicking him in the nuts, actually.
Yeah, Fledge is a good guy to bug. I never used to do anything like super, super crazy or mean, but I used to do the, one of the young boys comes, hey man, huffing and puffing after the match. Yo, bro, tap him on the shoulder, shake his hand. Good match. Before I hold his hand, and as he's about to turn, I pull him. Who did you work? And then they're all like puffed up. Or I loved getting Kurt Sorokin. He would come up after his 45-minute long after intermission promo of PWA comes out. Kurt, come here. Yo, that stuff on the mic you just did, of all the promos I've ever heard in my whole entire life, that was the most recent. And just walk away. And he's all puffed.
Probably the maddest Kurt ever got at me. And I'm going to tell this story because it's hilarious now. When Kurt's never been as mad at me as when I said this. We were talking about how long his promos were. And for a while, I was kind of teasing him about it. And it was starting to get sensitive because I was ripping him maybe too much about it. Mm-hmm. And he comes into the locker room, and there's a few boys, so it probably embarrassed him. But there's a few of the boys sitting there. I was like, hey, Kurt, did you hear they invented a second internet just to house your promos? And he got so mad at me.
I remember, he used to get hot when like guys would cut on him for the promos. He used to get so mad about it. And I'm like, yo, relax, brother.
If it wasn't true, he wouldn't say it.
Yeah, it's just part of like, he's like the older brother kind of guy. You just bug him a little bit. Try to make him mad just to see, so he could yell in the back, guys, leave me alone, blah. And we're just laughing. We're like, okay, sorry, Kurt, sorry. But we just wanted that rise out of him for the 5 minutes.
Just here's the thing about Kurt. He's one of the best guys, but he's too easy to stir up. And it's hilarious to watch. You know what I mean? Like, I used to joke with him too. Like, how come you come to the shows and act like every show, it seems like you're so stressed out, every show's the first show. Like, you've been doing this for 20 years. How are you so wound up?
100%, man. And then all the 11 shows of the year, or 11 shows in Edmonton of the year, were the build up to the graveyard.
Yeah. Hey, man, nothing sold more tickets than that graveyard.
Yeah, he's
Like
gonna
people
kill
come
us.
to me like, who sold more tickets than you, Durango? That corpse.
He's gonna kill us when he hears this too. Watch.
Oh, I'm getting a text, guaranteed.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's it. He knows we love him. We're talking about him. On that note, man, what do you got going on? How can people find you? What's going on? What's your social media? Let's talk about that.
So on social media, we'll go with that. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at True Raj Singh. And I'm doing my best to be as active on there as possible. What's going on? For now, I'm coaching at the Workforce Fitness Performance Center, Ali School there.
And what's the media for that? Is it on Twitter, Facebook?
It's WFPC on Instagram.
Okay.
So yeah, it's WFPC. It's going to be changing to UWN.
Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah, it will be changing. So I'm coaching there for now until I get called back. Like, I mean, I know you. I'm sure you knew that I had knee surgery last year.
Yes.
Yeah. So like on May 15th, it is 1 year exactly.
Oh shit.
And I'm ready to go. So it's just a matter of the phone call and do I need to go get a vaccine to be allowed to travel?
Yeah, when are you gonna have to have a vaccine passport?
Yeah, so we'll find out. I mean, so I'm still with Impact Wrestling, and like, you know, when you say you get that itch to come back and you're gonna be that much better and that much more ready mentally, physically, that's where I am right now.
You got the fever, baby. You got the fever.
Yeah, like and you know, talking to my cousin and just getting in shape, like eating proper, like I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yeah,
and
you're looking thick, bro.
Thank you. It's you know, the cliche, like, oh, I'm in the best shape of my life. Everybody has to say that today.
Yeah.
Not necessarily true for everybody, but for me it is.
Yeah.
Where like man. I count my calories. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. just to ride the bike at least, and then go back to sleep if I have to do whatever. So I'm doing that. And then you know, the family business. My dad's got the restaurant. I don't touch the restaurant, but I help with the real estate stuff. And
right.
And then I mean, try to be as busy as I can with acting, and I run a hockey league, but the hockey league because of COVID, haven't been able to do that. So
right.
It's a few different things on the go. And I mean, in the meantime, just watching a hell of a ton of wrestling and the Duke You Suck podcast.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much, brother. On that note, let's get out of here, man. It's been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate you giving me your time.
And we're gonna need another one of these because the time, like, dude, there's so much stuff I wanted to say. Like, you know, talking about like Kid Chocolate when we took him on the ride to Edmonton and how we ribbed him on the road. There's so much stuff that we talked about.
I want to tell the story about when we went into the McDonald's in Innisfail.
100%.
Like the place, it was like a fucking music video. The place went quiet and everyone just looked at you two guys. And I remember thinking, is this what it's like for you guys everywhere?
I looked at him, oh, I'm fair skinned, my brother. I'm like,
all right, man. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
I have one question for you before we leave.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Is that all you got?
What do you mean?
Is that all you got?
Is that all you got?
Remember from come on, the lady used to say it in the front row at Stampede.
Oh,
every show. Is that all you got? Is that all you got? I thought she used to say she was your biggest fan though. Yeah,
that's Loudmouth Mo.
Yes, that's what she used to say at the end or at everything. Is that all you got? I had to say that to you.
I forgot about that.
Oh, there goes my joke. Frick.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Too many bong rips and concussions. That's not your fault.
Again, thank you so much for having me. Anytime, bro. Love talking to you.
Raj Singh, everybody. Follow him on the Insta. Follow True Raj Singh on Instagram and Twitter. Give him a follow. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Of course, brother. Thank you, man.